In many circumstances in this country, we see emotionally charged issues that boil for a long time. They can't always be resolved. Not everybody's going to agree on everything. Not everybody is going to agree on certain hot-button social issues that result in some cases from just basic differences in how people view life and how people view their place in the universe. One of those areas where it manifests itself is in the area of abortion. People view life and when it begins differently. Some of that's informed by religious beliefs. Some of it's informed just by people's common sense approach to what they think the law ought to say and what it ought not to say. Disputes regarding when life begins and disputes regarding abortion didn't begin with Roe versus Wade. What did change with Roe versus Wade, however, was the federalization and the grasping of the issue and the taking it beyond the realm of political debate within the federal judiciary, such that elected lawmakers were no longer in a position to be the primary drivers of policy. As a result, over the last few decades, you've had all kinds of questions that have been put into uncertainty. You've got uncertainty by people at the state level who want to make their own decisions about certain things around abortion. They know they can't prohibit it entirely. They know that there's this undue burden standard that has to be addressed. Nobody's completely sure in advance what that means, and so they work around it. There are discussions that arise regarding health and safety qualifications for abortion clinics, how close an abortion clinic needs to be to an accredited hospital, how it needs to be staffed, and what the sanitation protocols are. Then you've got, more recently, some states passing laws saying, look, there's abundant medical science showing that an unborn human can feel and respond to pain as early as, 10 or 12 gestational weeks, but certainly by 20 weeks. And so by 20 weeks, we're going to adopt a different set of legal procedures for an abortion as a result of that, because if this is a human that everybody agrees can feel and respond to pain, we got to handle that differently. All of those things, the legitimacy of those laws, are thrown into the federal courts yet again, all because those were made federal issues. Now, I want to be very clear. You'd have the impression from watching debates in circumstances like this one and in protests outside the Supreme Court of the United States, you'd have the impression that if Roe versus Wade didn't exist, that all of a sudden abortion would immediately become illegal in every state in America. That assumes a lot of facts not in evidence. In fact, that assumes a lot of things contrary to evidence. It is not the fact that it is simply not the case that the fate of health care in America turns on whether or not someone is confirmed to the Supreme Court of the United States, nor is it a fact to suggest that the availability of an abortion or lack thereof is contingent upon anyone's confirmation to the Supreme Court of the United States. The fact that we have this debate and the fact that it's become as protracted, as personal, as ugly as it has, could, I suspect, be traced to the fact that we've tried to take a debatable matter beyond debate. And we've tried to take it outside the political branches of government where people can elect their individual representatives and have laws respecting and reflecting the views of their respective communities. We're a country of, 330 million Americans. It's really, really difficult to have those 330 million Americans reflected in 9 members of the Supreme Court. It's still really hard to have them reflected in 100 senators and 435 representatives. That's doable, especially when those people are elected. They stand for election every couple years in the case of the House, every 6 years in the case of the Senate. It doesn't happen that way in the Supreme Court of the United States. So to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, who are fear-mongering on this, causing people to worry and lose sleep over this, fundraising over this, fundraising over threats that people are going to lose their health care, fundraising over threats that people are going to be dying in the streets because of the lack of availability of this or that medical procedure. I'd ask, have we created a monster? Have we ourselves, through our own inaction, through our own voluntary cessation of authority to a non-legislative, non-political branch, have we created the very set of untenable social circumstances that are causing people to protest outside of a non-political entity? I think we have to ask ourselves that question from time to time. Life is, in fact, valuable. It's not a religious statement to make that observation. In fact, it's the foundation of basically all of our laws, not just in this country, not just in countries with Christian origins, but in basically every country that has ever existed anywhere in the world. The purpose of government is to protect life. That's what it's about. If we can't agree on the fact that it's reasonable that people ought to be able to have some say, at least at some limit, at least at some point beyond the moment when an unborn human can feel and respond to pain, something's wrong with us. And if we're going to leave those things perpetually in the hands of the unelected, it might be really convenient for political fundraising within Congress, but it's not good for the United States of America. It's not good for constitutionally limited government. It's not good for our individual liberties.